Risha, your host for today's detox session. How are you all? Hope you're doing all good. It gives us immense pleasure to welcome you to Detox, a heartwarming initiative by Devi Sansthan. Detox isn't just a platform, it's a growing movement. It's a space where passionate educators, change makers, and everyone who cares about learning comes together to swap ideas, share stories, and explore fresh practical ways to tackle some of the biggest challenges in education today. Detox stands for Disruptive Talks, and true to its name, it aims to disrupt the conventional ways of thinking and operating in education. Through these sessions, we intend to spark meaningful conversation that challenge norms, inspire change, and pave the way for solutions to address disruptive challenges in education. The primary goal of Detox is to create a unified front of committed individuals and organizations working together to eradicate literacy, a challenge that contributes to plague our society. Devi Sansthan has a long standing history of contributing to the cause of literacy and education. Our journey began with a vision to empower every individual through education and to make learning accessible, inclusive, and transformative. Over the years, Devi Sansthan has launched numerous initiatives aimed at bridging gaps in education, training educators, and fostering a culture of continuous learning. From grassroots levels and interventions in underprivileged communities to large scale programs that influence policy. Our work has always been driven by the belief that literacy is a fundamental human right. We have collaborated with schools, government bodies, NGOs, and private organizations to implement programs that directly impact learners and educators. Through teacher training workshops, community engagement activities, and advocacy campaigns, we have strived to reach those who need education the most. Our unwavering commitment has earned us recognition and support. But more importantly, it has fueled our resolve to do more. Detox is a natural extension of this commitment, a platform where we can amplify our efforts, learn from each other, and collectively push the boundaries of what is possible in the realm of education. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our esteemed guest for today's session, Dr. Rajiv Ranjan. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Grissa?
Great, sir. Thank you so much. Dr. Rajiv Ranjan is an acclaimed academic leader currently serving as the Dean of Integral Business School, Integral University, Lucknow. With a PhD in Innovation Management from IIM Ahmedabad and an MS in Business Analytics from the University of Texas at Austin. He brings over 13 years of cross sector experience in academia, government, and different industries. He has held prestigious roles at institutions like Johns Hopkins University, IIM Ahmedabad, and IIHMR, and consulted for global firms such as EY and Delphi. A contributor to India's National Education Policy 2020 and a mentor with Niti Aayog's Atal Innovation Mission, Dr. Ranjan is known for his work in foundational education leadership, innovation ecosystems, and public policy. He is also the author of Small Big Bang, Whispering Bricks, and the forthcoming Diamond Creators. His work spans across 8 countries, and he remains a passionate mentor, researcher, and a thought leader committed to empowering future leaders. We are honored to have him with us today. At this point, I would like to hand over the session to Mr. Nixon Joseph. Hello, sir. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Nixon Joseph is the Group Executive Director of Devi Sansthan. Just before joining us, he was the president of SBI Foundation. Earlier, he had held positions as CEO, SBI Tokyo branch, and manager operation, SBI Bahrain. He is in the board of Yes Bank Foundation and board of studies, IIM Kozhikode. An avid long-distance runner, he has also so far completed 72 full marathons. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Vishal. So good evening, Dr. Rajiv Ranjan. It is a pleasure to have you in today's
Very good
talks.
evening, Mr. Nixon.
Especially
I'm also
with
delighted
your,
to be with you today.
and we are excited because your background is in management, data analytics, etc. And still you take a lot of interest in early childhood care and education. So it's very nice to have you at the Detox today.
Thank you very much.
You have led the foundational education leadership training under NEP 2020. In your view, what are the top 3 qualities that define an effective leader in the early childhood care and education ecosystem?
So this is a very interesting question and very close to my heart. When I make the presentation, I will discuss it in very detail and how I arrived at these conclusions. But right now, I will only answer what are the three qualities that are there. So the first and most important quality is empathy. So there is a saying that for being a teacher, you need not be a scholar, you just need to be concerned with the student. So empathy is one important criterion. Second is ability to, once you have empathy, you should have the ability to find the element in the child. So you should be observational in nature as a teacher if you are interested in actually nurturing the career of a child. And finally, you should have a very strong self belief, because failures in education sector is, the probability of failure is very high. So every time you experiment, chances are you fail more and you succeed less. So you should have very strong self belief that whatever I am doing, it will reap some rewards one day or the other.
Thank you. It's very interesting answer. Having contributed to NEP 2020, what critical gaps in leadership do you believe still exist in implementing the 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 structure, especially in the early years?
So when we reach to this whole idea, so the first critical gap that was identified was that uh, the public schooling system particularly had a 10 plus 2 and not a 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. And because of that, three most important years from 3 to 6 years of age was being lost by the children who were from the economically and socially disadvantaged backgrounds, and they were losing out on these early learnings. And since they were first generation learners, this actually the learning gap used to increase, and that is where when they used to directly get into class 1, and so that is one critical gap that was identified. Second and most important gap again was that educational innovation has always been seen as a top down kind of a approach, but not a bottom up approach. And what I mean by that, educations have been happening, so you have to understand that you have to start rewarding that positive behavior such that it becomes a daily affair. So that is very important. In management, we say that when strategy becomes a daily routine, the strategy has been implemented and has become successful. So that is how it has been thought of. So it cannot only be bottom up or top down, it has to be a mixture of both. And I will again discuss when I present in detail how I arrived at this conclusion.
Okay, thank you. See, you have emphasized teacher-led innovation in your research and practice. How can grassroots teacher innovation be better integrated into the leadership models in early childhood care and education
So,
settings?
when I hear of this question, I'm reminded of several case studies that I wrote, and I must not reduce the lifelong work and contributions of several teachers from Gujarat, which was my geography of study, and the kind of work they were doing in their own context to actually transform not only the school or the learning outcomes, but the whole village environment per se. So they were actually making schools as centers of village development. And once that was achieved, uh, there was never a shortage of funds. And for that to be achieved initially, a very strong self belief I talked about earlier, that what are the uh, key features or behavioral traits of a teacher who actually po- contributes very positively even in a system which has some bureaucratic hurdles. So the whole point remains that there is a lifelong work that is there, and teacher led innovations start with positive behavior and with positive attitude that I have an opportunity to make a transformational change. In Scandinavian countries, and my discussion with researchers from Norway, Sweden, and Britain, I've always found out that there is this, and it gets appreciated that if you are uh, appreciating the positive behavior of teachers, and as far as the integration part is concerned, government needs to be an enabler in that sense. And then what we did in Gujarat when I was doing my PhD thesis was that we only not identified who are the innovative teachers. We started doing innovation fairs at a large scale, that every district, one teacher from each school will have district innovation fairs. And the first innovation fair was organized in the year 2015-16. Because of COVID, 1 year was lost, but then also right now we are in the ninth cycle of the innovation fairs. So there has been a lot of infusion of innovation. So there is this concept of how innovations spiral down and become kind of popularized to the larger mass. So the idea is that some teachers are innovating, and their work is exposed, so other teachers are exposed to their work and they also starts innovating. The self belief gets enhanced, and that is how one can actually achieve it.
Good. That was very interesting to hear, especially when you told teacher innovation starts with positive behavior. That is a big takeaway from your talk. Given your experience with the data driven impact evaluation, how should we measure leadership success in foundational education beyond just enrollment and learning outcomes?
This is again very interesting. So I would like to point out that Gujarat had, when I was researching, actually I used two sets of data to actually design a natural experiment. And what I used was, one, the innovation scores of teachers which were already available with us at the Ravi Jebanthai Center for Educational Innovation, and because that was designed by us. But government had a school data self appraisal kind of a school form, and in that there were four aspects actually. So there was, the first aspect, obviously everyone knows, is the curricular outcomes, but there were also co-curricular outcomes as the second outcome. The third outcome which was talked of is school infrastructure, mode of use and maintenance. It is very interesting. So it is kind of a utilization of resources. And finally, community participation. So these were the indicators of success of school, and the consisted the Gunotsav. Initially, Gunotsav used to only happen in Gujarat, but over time you must be aware that it started in Assam, and Assam is a pioneer in many ways in the educational setting. So, a lot of innovations happen there as well. So, three states have
Mhm.
already started doing Gunotsav, and my dream is that each state should actually start doing that. Because when I joined this talk, one of the reasons why I got more interested is because the idea given was in the title, that FLN, disrupting the status quo, and when the best is not enough. So maybe we had ASAR reports earlier, we are measuring the numeracy and literacy outcomes, but that's not enough. As the elephant cannot be successful with when he is expected to do a fish's work or lead a life like that. So there is this idea of multiple intelligence, and that is where curricular as well as co-curricular school infrastructure, mode of use and maintenance in itself, that education in itself is an end and not only a means to an end. So that is also very important. And community participation, that is to ensure that school becomes center for, so school should create societies and not the other way around. So those are the kind of ideas which I would like to propose here.
Okay. In fact, your ideas are also very disruptive.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So, how can ECC leaders balance academic rigor with nurturing creativity, empathy, and social skills, traits that are foundational in the early years but often under measured?
Thank you for asking this question. I had always believed when these ASAR reports came out that these 6, 7 years, 8 years of school education is not helping them actually achieve the learning outcomes, and which were kind of very basic. And that is where I respect the work of Devi Sansthan and the kind of proposition they are making, that in 45 days it is possible. I had always believed that, but I had not worked on that kind of a system, and that was developed, which has now been developed by Devi Sansthan, and it existed in some form or the other, but no institutions has ever made this strong acclaim, which all I always wanted a collaborator in that regard. Given that you are left with a lot of time, so when we talk of foundational education, it is from 3 to 8 years. That is of 5 years. Now, when one can achieve this in 45 academic days, which is only approximately 20% of the academic days, counting for all holidays, everything. So, in that case, you are left with kind of approximately 4.8 academic years to do a lot of interesting things. And one of the fundamental things which is actually missing piece in the whole educational story, and which comes not from the general intelligence model but from the multiple intelligence model, is that uh, one should actually have an exposure system before there is a identification or a choice made that this is what I want to pursue as a career. And I know government is always already taking some forward steps regarding this, and lot of further work needs to be done, and organizations like Devi Sansthan and maybe academic and thought leaders like me can contribute in that regard. So the whole point I'm trying to raise is there needs to be a strong exposure, 360-degree feedback based exposure system. I talk about that kind of a system when I present again, because these questions are again means pointing to some of the things which I will discuss in detail. So exposure system, and then based on a strong 360-degree feedback from I will like to talk about the Bronfenbrenner's framework. That is all stakeholders, like most important stakeholder, the mother and the father, the parents. Even if they are first generation learners, they are not educated, then also they are observing. They are thinking about their children's life and their progress. It's not that one should not assume that just because someone is not educated, that means he's not wise. So those are the kind of ideas I have, that there should be exposure system and then identification that will fasten the pace of work or outcomes that we desire actually. So we are left with a lot of years given the proposition of Devi Sansthan at 45 days, the foundational literacy and numeracy, and I have been exposed to alpha pedagogy, and I completely have gone through it, and I strongly believe that it is possible. I have believed it for the last 12, 13 years, but this is one moment where this seems that further orbits and goals can be achieved.
I'm very happy to see you as a votary of alpha pedagogy.
Thank you very much for that. I
You
always
have worked
appreciate
close,
good work.
yes. You have worked closely with both national and international policy bodies. What can India learn from global ECCE leadership models, and how do we adapt them to our rural and low resource
This
context?
is very interesting. So one of the points which is always put in proposition and is always talked about, that for to make for nation building particularly, what is required is a cadre of teachers who are, and since we live in a world which also values money, and so the cadre of teachers who are not only respected but given the kind of positional status in the outer world in the society. Means sadly, India has not been able to rise to the level of some of the Scandinavian countries like Norway and Sweden, and I don't want to name more. So the reason being, mm, that there is some kind of a bureaucratic thought process in the society. So the bureaucracy is less bureaucratic than the society itself, which bestows upon the bureaucrats that you are the most powerful people in the world. Have a strongly believed that the most powerful person in the world is the one who can create and open new vistas and new worlds, and that is none other than the teacher. Obviously, it starts with the mother, who is the first teacher. I have actually come up with a book, and which is an ode to Indian teaching community, which will be coming up very soon in the
Okay.
market. So it is titled as Diamond Creators. What I
Okay.
write there is that we are not diamonds, but we are its creators. It is very interesting to think whether diamond is a bigger thing or the diamond creator is bigger. That is a question I will leave you with, and maybe we can discuss it further.
Public-private partnerships and our initiatives play in building scalable leadership models in ECCE sector?
This is again a very interesting question, and now with this whole debate of, so always if we look into economic theory, there was this debate that when there is a market failure, government comes into picture. When there is a government failure, then market comes into picture. And both fail, then civil society comes into picture. But there are also possibilities that all fail, and when are they, and all of that we have been debating. And what we have actually realized, that this whole debate is uh, means futile. Actually, there is a very interesting book by Rianne Eisler, which builds upon and maybe disrupts a thought again. The book name of the book is The Real Wealth of Nations, and it talks about care economy models. Very interesting, and it talks about six sectors. And one of the, so the three economic sectors which are always raised into picture come into this, but there are other sectors as the natural economy, the care economy, and very interestingly the illegal economy. So everything where there is hard work is legal in nature. And obviously, so there has been unnecessary debate that civil society people point on government, and government points on the private players and all of that. So
Technology
now we have,
enabling,
pardon me.
not replacing human leadership in early childhood classrooms and school management.
Okay, I pardon me, I could not gather the
With your
question.
background in AI and analytics, how do you see technology enabling, not replacing human leadership in early childhood classrooms and school management?
Yeah, so technology, as far as I believe, given my background, I have always seen it as an enabler. I'm also an electronics engineer, and if I'm not there, also technology is just an enabler. It is a tool, and that is how it has to be utilized. With technology, lot of things are at the tip of the fingers, and teachers can use it to not only now search for answers, but also there is a concept called brain picking. So pick into their own brains based on, say, for example, using a generative AI tool, ChatGPT, what I have been thinking, what are the questions I am asking, and what I have been asking for the past 2 3 years. So those kind of evolutions has actually happened, and that will. I'm also a teacher, maybe in the higher educational space more than the
Yes.
primary, but it doesn't matter much in that sense. So there are these opportunities to actually utilize it in a very fruitful way, and this is only one piece of the whole pie I am talking about. One can generate tools. It can boost creativity to human creativity to another level. That is what I can see, and it can save a lot of time.
You had a chance to observe the alpha pedagogy during our leadership circle in Lucknow. From your perspective, how can innovative low cost models like alpha be leveraged to train and empower leaders in foundational education at scale?
So, having done my observations and given the next target of the alpha pedagogy to have it in a very capsule form and actually beat the Nippon deadline. So, that is very important, which it talks about. So, one of the things which I have, based on my own experiences of working or researching in school settings or being a parent myself, what I have observed, uh, and as we all know, when some idea is converted into maybe an audio visual form, then it becomes more and more effective. And so if there are these audio visuals created as well as using the AI tools, or maybe even using some basic video formatting and all of that, that will actually help reach it to the larger community of teachers more effectively. So that is one. Second is obviously using this concept of innovation fairs. So there is an innovation already happening, and I see even the leadership circles that happen is one kind of an innovation fair where more and more teachers over a period of time get exposed, and maybe especially right now, teachers from all across the country are coming there, and every time a new cohort of teachers get exposed. So that is there, but then one needs to partner with the government and make it kind of a mandate, and that is the enabling support government can provide from every school. Say for example in a district it happens, so if it happens at all scales of the administrative bureaucracy, slowly and steadily, and over a period of 1 2 years, final culmination that will help infuse that innovation of say for example alpha pedagogy to beat the Nippon deadline and achieve the things very quickly. So that is how, based on my experience of working in Gujarat again and my research, I can tell.
Okay, okay, good. You often say a ship in a harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are built for. How has this belief shaped your own journey, especially in the work you do, linking health, nutrition, and education? Could you share an example where stepping out of your comfort zone led to meaningful impact?
Yes, this is again very much related to my introduction and the first question you asked, that given a PhD in from a management institute, why education? So I am happy to tell you that I joined the public policy department of the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, and the innovation and management in education area was created post my joining and doing some work which I will explain in my presentation. So, and this actually dream was there from the very beginning of Ravi Mathai and the initial founding fathers like Vikram Sarabhai. And my PhD guide was the first chairperson of the Ravi J. Mathai Center for Educational Innovation, which started in 1991. But the institution waited for 22 long years to get a student who would take this leap of not taking a very conventional PhD degree in a management institution, but extremely unconventional, where the chances of getting employed post doing your PhD will be very minimal, because you are neither doing so. In our system, it was a BTech and then directly a PhD, so you do not get absorbed in the university system mostly. There are a lot of complexities associated with doing that kind of a degree, and initially the IM Act was not there. But then also, since it was close to my heart, I did not think twice even to do a research on a topic which was close to my heart and not very much strongly career oriented, which will land me a job maybe in a World Bank or a UNEP or like that. So that is not what I thought of, and I know that that has contributed very well, not only in my career but in my life and building life of few students whom I have been able to inspire.
Okay, Dr. Rajiv Ranjan, now it's the time for your presentation.
Right. So thank you for the opportunity. So I will start the presentation, and you will find lot of answers to the queries in a little more
Yes,
detail and the context when I make the presentation. And thank you for asking all these beautiful questions. This again
thank you
reiterates
so
my
much.
belief. And while reviewing for this uh, talk, I actually looked into the past 14, 15 years of my life, what I have been doing related to education sector. So thank you very much for providing this opportunity. I will start the presentation.
Thank you. Makes us very proud. Thank you.
So I will rejoin in a moment. Actually, there is some technicality I am facing. I'm not able to share the screen. I will rejoin from uh, once more.
Okay, okay, we will wait. Yes.
So, people, we still have some time left. So, if you have any questions regarding the topic we just sir has talked about, you can ask questions in the comment section, and we will surely give you the answer whenever sir will be back. We will answer your questions shortly. So, stay tuned, everyone. Please,
Yes.
yes, sir.
Just a moment, please.
Yeah, of course.
So is my screen visible now?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay. So let me go to the presentation. Is the presentation visible?
Not
So the
yet, sir.
present
It is not visible yet.
it's not visible.
No.
Actually, I have started sharing. So give me a moment again. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. It's visible now. You can carry on with your presentation.
Yeah. So let me begin. So what I am going to talk about today is about foundational education leadership in early childhood care and education, charting the way forward. So we had a lot of discussion already with Mr. Nixon, and he was asking a lot of queries why I pursued a PhD related to education and ECC when I was in a management institution. So, a lot of queries will get answered as I present make this presentation. So, what I am going to do is actually take you through my journey as an educational researcher and practitioner. It started from summers of 2008 to 11 when I was in my BTech, and till present. So that is what the journey has been, and that is the journey of a reflective educational practitioner. I am also a professor and educator and a teacher, and I have been a reflective practitioner, and this has provided me an opportunity again to delve back into why I chose to do what I did. So let me go to two actions, two stories, and one life lesson. So I did my BTech from Cochin University in Kerala, and very interestingly, my father also did his BTech from REC Calicut in Kerala. We had a very similar experience when we both went to Kerala, though somewhere around 24 years apart. Then also, what we found out was that the girl education at in Kerala was very different and at loggerheads with what was there in Bihar. Where I belong originally from Bihar. So my father took a step that he decided that he will make his sister or my aunt a doctor, and he ensured she became that. He had written in his diary when he was coming back completing his engineering that I will make my sister a doctor, and he taught her, prepared her, and she became a doctor, and she is a doctor. This story I knew, and when I went to Kerala, I was already a third generation learner in my family, and I started thinking that all of us are becoming engineers or doctor and practitioners of professional fields. What more I can do for society? And that is where this thought came that I must pursue something which actually contributes to my homeland Bihar, and that is where this idea of uh, doing something for Bihar in the education sector came up. The second one, during my, I always wanted to get into an IIT, but I could not. I had a lower rank in the IIT merit list, though I had a rank. And then what happened? I always felt something negative about this whole non-achievement. So my father gave me a very interesting idea that why don't you guide Sonu, who was the son of my made whenever I went to for the summer vacations, I started teaching Sonu for his mathematics, and he was in ninth class when I was in the first end of first year of engineering. In the next 4 years, I taught Sonu to the extent that actually, and I cannot claim that it was only my contribution, but I also helped him with his mathematics and physics and all of that. And finally, Sonu got selected into IIT Kanpur. So these two things actually gave me a very interesting life lesson. And the life lesson was I, as a teacher, can live multiple lives through the life of my mentees. Though I did not study at IIT, someone I mentored studied there. Though I also went on to go to IIM Ahmedabad later. So when you are started contributing for the larger cause, your achievements also get enhanced, and you start enjoying that your the success of your uh, mentees. And that is where this whole idea of birth of a Kerala dream for Bihar came up, that if Kerala can do so well being in our own country, why not we? While the numbers told otherwise, because the girl child education or literacy rates were very low, and what I have been able to do so far also, I don't know, but the point is I have been trying to contribute some way or the other, and that is what how the journey has been, and it has spanned across different states, and that is what one can always do, only contribute some bits to whatever dream one has, and for oneself or for the world, and that is also for one's own satisfaction. That is Swanta Sukhai. So when I started thinking of the Kerala dream, and Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan was on the verge of kind of achieving approximately 100% enrollment rate, and RT came in. So this is a video I reminisced from the past when I was in school days, and I had seen this video during the tenure of Honorable Prime Minister Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee for Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan. So we must try and watch it. It is a very interesting video which gives us a sense into why ECC, and the way forward is clearly described here, that हमको जीने की वजह मिलती जाती है. So giving a purpose to life is the larger purpose of education. And let us see this video and the song explains better.
सवेरे सवेरे यारों से मिलने ठन ठन के निकले सवेरे सवेरे यारों से मिलने घर से दूर चले रोके से ना रुके हम मर्जी से चले बादल सा गरजे हम सावन सा बरसे सूरज सा चमके हम स्कूल चले हम इसके दरवाजे से दुनिया के राज खुलते हैं कोई आगे चलता है हम पीछे चलते हैं दीवारों पे किस्मत अपनी लिखी जाती है इससे हमको जीने की वजह मिलती जाती है रोके से ना रुके हम मर्जी से चले हम बादल सा गरजे हम सावन सा बरसे हम सूरज सा चमके हम स्कूल चले हम रोके से ना रुके मर्जी से चले हम बादल सा गरजे हम सावन सा बरसे स्कूल चले हम स्कूल चले हम स्कूल चले हम
So it all starts with a small step or baby step. And very interestingly, a lesson I learned very early in my career by getting hands dirty. So when I got uh, inspired to do research in education policy, I thought of IMA so that I can study management, and from a management perspective, I can do research on education. So that is what my thing was. And then the first summer field work in Madhubani was very interesting. But how it all started, I will come to that. As soon as I got admitted into the program, uh, I wrote to the honorable current chief minister as well, Mr. Nitish Kumar, the then chief minister as well, so that I have got admitted, and I am inspired by your work and I want to do. And I was so naive that I thought that he has all the time in the world, because I have qualified into the prestigious Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, that he will give a red carpet welcome. And that is where, but that doesn't matter. That is what I learned, that that is only a beginning. You want to approach the policy echelons, but before that you need to get your hand dirty. So I did a summer research actually in the state of Bihar, in the district of Madhubani, and went to all levels of the schooling system, right from the classroom itself to the schools, to the school principal's room, to the cluster resource center, block resource centers, and diets, and then DEOs, BEOs, DEOs. So all levels of the educational echelon, right to the principal secretary. Uh, my good friend now, Mr. Vijay Prakash, was the principal secretary of education at that point in time. He is a retired IAS officer from the 1981 batch, and a very humble person. He is like my father says, then also he treats me like a friend. But that is where I got acquainted to him, and he has done a lot of interesting work with the Musar community's education. And I will talk later that how my work started concurring with his work henceforth, though he had been working for earlier 20-25 years in that domain already. So, what I studied for my summer finally was the issue of quota in RT Act, and that in itself is a landmark, that work that we started along with under the guidance of our honorable Professor Ankur Sareen. I and Akshay Milap studied this whole issue of quota, and then one of our PGP batchmates, Mr. Ashish Ranjan, along with him, I started the Eklavya RTE Resource Center, which became the RTE Resource Center, which is still housed at IIM Ahmedabad. And Gujarat actually became the first state to have a RTE Resource Center where children from EWS category can get help, formal help, management help, to get admitted into the private schools under the 25% quota. So it was being asked that how can public private partnerships happen. So to functionalize the public private partnership, though there is a policy mandate, and Akshay Milap went on to do a PhD thesis actually on the policy uptake. Mine was on study of the innovation, and his was again from the public policy area, which he completed 1 year later to me, on the why policy uptake does not happen, though there is always already a policy directive. And that is where the role of management institutions come in. Another interesting thing which I was talking about, the fruits of seedling sown years ago, the Ravi J. Mathai Center for Educational Innovation. And the RJMC was established in 1991. And finally, academic area at IMA, which is innovations and management in education, exists now. And I was the first PhD graduate, and actually I am from the public policy area. Then also the IIM Library Consortium puts my thesis into the education sector. So I am delighted to tell that I am the first management graduate from an IIM who has done specific research on education policy and education sector. Now, very interestingly, my thesis and was on self-initiated teacher innovations or teacher-led innovations, their impact, evolution, and sustainability. And these are actual photographs of students from Sangwana Primary School who had been taken to an educational trip. And I have known the school principal of that school, Mr. Subhas Bhai Rathod, and if you want to know more about the kind of fortitude he has shown in life, you must read the case study in my PhD thesis on transformation at Sangwana. So that would be very interesting. So I completed my thesis, which began as a interest to doing a lot of work in the education sector, like the RT Resource Center. Parallelly, apart from the thesis work which was on teacher-led innovations. I'm not going into the details. This is only to tell you some interesting things that I faced a paradoxical reality that there are some teachers who are bringing out so much, being awarded by the then chief minister, now the honorable prime minister, and the kind of paradoxical reality. One way we see a creaking school, on the other side we see that the teacher has completely, school principal has completely transformed the school. So why is it happening? So the one of the very interesting aspect of teacher led innovation is self efficacy. So, and that comes from a very old book by Gijubai Badekha on Diva Swapna, written in somewhere in the 1920s, that the teacher has to wait eagerly for the school to begin, eager to take class, start my work. So positive behavior and excitement to make a difference, that is what makes a teacher an actual teacher who is interested in students development and not only his own. There are a lot of innovations related to, say for example, mobile library, or say for example, midday meal and tackling of anemia of girls and their dropout by giving sprouted grains. So this all is documented in my thesis. And also there is a website called inso.org, or teachers as transformers.org, where these innovations are mentioned. There is another interesting thing: when the teacher is innovative, one finds that even the students come up with innovative and uh, curious ideas, because they are given that space and freedom to express themselves. So this is an innovation one can see that Chaya did in Vidyadham Boru Primary School. Now, I will not go to all those details. I have already talked about innovation fairs that were happening in Gujarat, and now it is in the ninth cycle. During my PhD thesis, at the verge of end, the first education fair happened, and I also presented the findings of my thesis in, say for example, the state innovation fair at Saputara. So that is very interesting, and participant from each of the 6 schools, then government schools in Gujarat, actually participated at district level first, and finally at Saputara at a state innovation fair, and I presented my findings to those teachers. So these are the kind of ways in which one idea grows into a whole tree, and that is what education is meant for. I also presented my thesis findings at various educational conferences of various important forums across the world. One of them being at Anjam, where I talked about innovative teachers' effect on educational outcomes and quality through a natural experiment design. I also got a lot of appreciations from my thesis evaluators, and one of the important comments that came, that this thesis or dissertation has come as a whiff of fragrance, and that inspired me to do more. Thank you, Dr. S. Nayanantara, for that appreciation. So, I will talk about very quickly about, given the time limitation, select professional work credentials and recognition in education that I have. And this is only a brick by brick contribution of my bit to nation building. So I worked for the Atal Innovation Mission when it came up in 2017, and I was working in Madanpalle. And that is the birthplace of Jiddu Krishnamurti and Rishi Valley schools. Actually, the workplace I was there at MITS Madanpalle was only 3 kilometers from the Rishi Valley schools. And that is where I worked on a Atal Tinkering Laboratory and parallelly Atal Incubation Center. And in the meanwhile, the first Atal Tinkering Laboratory and Atal Incubation Center combo was set up by my good friend Mr. Vijay Prakash in Bihar. So at his School of Creative Learning and Bihar Vidyapit, and that is where we started. Means I started engaging in governmental missions related to the education policies that were happening. And meanwhile, even the national education policy was getting formulated. I also worked at IHMR, where I worked on a very interesting program for certificate program in rural livelihoods, and that was for children coming from the 10 states which are actually very economically poor, and most of the tribal population lives there. So we worked on a certificate program and designed everything from scratch. Similarly, I designed during the launch of NEP on July 29, 2020. During that time, from 8 July to 25 July, I delivered this foundational education leadership training program, the first in the country for that matter. Similarly, I designed the NEP 2020 implementation in higher educational institution in Karnataka, again for the Muslim English Language Institute in Afghanistan. We translated the curriculum so that vernacular students understand when they get admitted into higher educational institutions. Again, in Coimbatore based startup, where I developed a marketing strategy for their so this is very important from a technology integration point of view, why tech startups had to get integrated into the curricula and all of that. And again, while working on the advisor to the budget secretary, I introduced a lot of policies such as partnership for augmenting rural urban inclusive education, that PARI scheme, as well as several other training programs that I have already talked about, design public policy instruments and modalities for partnership in the partnership sector. So now, what is next? So what are the end goals? So there are no end goals, but in search of next orbits. My professor says when he retired, the dreams are so many, work is manifold, it does not let me tire, let alone retire. So I am so too young to even think of that. I have done too much. It's only a beginning of coming to next orbits. And so there is a lot of policy implementation possibility in the national education policy, even at the school education level, and the 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. I will not go into the details of NEP and the Sikshak Parv that happened in 2021, which was again a very interesting initiative of the Government of India, Ministry of Education. So, if you look about the state contextualization, I have contextualized NEP 2020 implementation for Punjab, Karnataka, and if it can be done there, why not UP, the largest state in the world in terms of population and as per size of the school education system? And I talk about very quickly the system that that Harvard Gardner's multiple intelligence theory. So there should be a exposure stage in the beginning, and the alpha pedagogy will support that exposure stage, because in 45 days, if the FLN goals are achieved, then one can think about the exposure based on a 360-degree feedback and lifestyle approach to education. And once the exposure done, the identification can be done, and then the nurturing, the performance transition from performer and trainee to a trainer, and finally evolution as a master trainer. So life and the life cycle of education should be intertwined. So that is how I look at education and the design and implementation of education policy, and all these 10 intelligences, what should be the larger picture and objectives. And that again comes from some evidences from my thesis, and some more research work which is coming up, that if one does well in other domains, say for example in sports or maybe arts and music, as the economies also grow phenomenally. So there has been some evidence with regards to that. I'm not going into the details of all this. So school education should be divided into various stages, and not only curricular but co-curricular items must be focused upon. And then literacy numeracy agenda should be very important, but it should only be complementary to other agendas, and nurturing multiple intelligence and building exposure and identification system, and then the nurturing system. The higher education can play a very important role. Institutions like Integral University in partnership with Devi Sansthan can actually work wonders, say for example with regards to adoption of technology for that matter, or training of the trainers or teachers. So one can always do all those aspects very interestingly. Devi Sansthan already has a alpha pedagogy and the rainbow education work, that they are doing. So obviously the FLN work they are doing, and they're trying to beat the Nipun deadline. But if they also start going beyond that and thinking about and supporting my idea, that would be very interesting. So I finally believe, and why being a management graduate, I work in education, because it is not your blue blood, your pedigree, or your college degree. It is what you do with your life that counts, in the words of Millard Fuller. And my upcoming book, We Are Not Diamond But Its Creators, it has been inspired by my brother Saket and my wife Swati, who also have their birthdays on the National and International Teachers Days, and they have been true embodiments of teaching and mentorship in my career and in my V days. I will like to recite this small couplet, which my grandfather always used to recite for us. जो सो चुके हैं तम के सागर में, वो जागेंगे ये सत्य बात, जो देख चुके जीवन निशीत, वो ही देखेंगे मंगल प्रभात. So India should actually try and create a white globe, and in the context of Devi Sansthan, and I have visited and I have attended Leadership 3.0. Jai Jagat.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv Ranjan. That was a fairly great presentation.
Thank you.
Your journey, both as a student and as a professor, both are very, very impressive, and quite inspired by your journey, both as a student and as a professor. Thank you for graciously accepting our invitation and sharing your invaluable experiences in early childhood care and education. Your insights into the magic of alpha pedagogy, combined with your unwavering passion and data driven approach to teaching, have profoundly inspired us. We are truly grateful for the enriching interaction and the dedication you bring to shaping young minds. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much for your time and the opportunity. Look forward. Yes, Grisa, last words from you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such inspiring talk. And your journey was actually very inspiring. The video was fabulous. The song and everything was very great. And
Yes.
I wish you all the very best for your upcoming book.
Thank you very much. I also look forward for it coming into the market, because it has been a lifelong aspiration to write such a book.
Okay. Wish you all the best. So,
Thank you.
ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the close of today's enriching detox session, I would like to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guest speaker, Dr. Rajiv Ranjan. Your valuable insights, thought provoking ideas, and engaging interaction have not only enlightened us, but have also inspired us to think deeply about our roles in addressing the pressing issues of illiteracy. I encourage everyone here to take today's insights as a call to action and to contribute in whichever way possible to further this noble cause. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining for today's session. Have a very good night.